As the Spirit of God controls you, He produces fruit. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, and love will only come in that way. So the way you approach it is not in a self-righteous determination of your own mind. The way you approach it is simply to yield your life to the Spirit of God. Holy Spirit, control me today, take over my life, live through me, and the fruit of love will be manifest. Now, precisely at that point do we enter the picture of the Corinthian church. The Corinthian church was not walking in the Spirit. The Corinthian church was not yielded to the Spirit. The Corinthian church was not under the control of the Holy Spirit. They were selfish, self-designing, self-willed, self-motivated, doing everything they could to promote their own ends. Everybody doing his own thing for his own good with no regard for anyone else. It didn't matter what anybody else was doing. It didn't matter what anybody else needed. Everybody out for himself. That was the motto of the Corinthian church. So there was no love. They were not walking in the Spirit. No love was produced. So everything they did manifested this antagonism, rebellion, discord, disunity, and disharmony. Now, it's precisely at this point that Paul speaks to them in 13 and says, the only thing that's going to hang your whole assembly together is love. The only way the spiritual gifts are going to operate is love. The only way you're going to get out of this envy and jealousy on the one hand and pride and boasting on the other hand is love. Love is the key to the unity that will paint the portrait of Christ so that the world can see what He really looks like. I would just remind you that, take Grace Church, for example. If we depended for our unity and a single visible testimony to the world, if we depended on the fact that we all agreed on everything, we'd be in a lot of trouble, wouldn't we? Because no matter what we do, somebody wouldn't agree with it. That's a fact. Now, some of you may say, well, I don't agree with the way you're doing this in such and such a place. Well, I don't agree with this certain situation. Well, I don't like where my class meets. Well, I don't agree with what the elders decided about this. Well, I don't agree. Well, I wish they'd have put that pillar over there and that post over there, and why aren't these things higher, and why did they put the tree here? There's always that. I mean, there are people who disagree. I'll show you my mail. There are people who disagree with me. I mean, every Sunday I come down the stairs and I want to get down in a hurry because somebody might say something to make me fall over, because, it's going to happen. We get good mail too, which we keep. And, but everybody doesn't agree, see? And we realize everybody doesn't agree. But that isn't the point. We could never get everybody to agree on every little thing. But you know what we want to do? We want everybody to love in a biblical way so that whether they agree or not is irrelevant. What they have most in mind is making sure that they sacrifice their own opinion for the sake of the unity of the whole. You see? So it isn't a matter of whether you agree. I don't always agree with every little thing that goes on in everybody's life, but sometimes I have to take a back seat and say, I think the Lord is leading in a certain way, and I'm sure willing lovingly to acquiesce to somebody else. That's the spirit of unity. It'll never be on the basis of agreement, but agreement can be overruled by love, and that's his point here. The Corinthians had too many clashes going on. There was no way to get them all to think the same way, all to agree on the same thing, to have every little tiny thing in the same box. That just wouldn't work. The only way you can pull that off in a church is to get a guy in the pulpit who's an absolute dictator and drives out everybody who disagrees. And then you don't have a church. You just got an absolute dictator and a whole bunch of rubber ducks quacking along with him. That's it. And that isn't true unity. True unity will come out of all of those people with all of their varying ideas and ideals who are willingly and lovingly anxious to sacrifice their own will for the sake of the unity of the believers. Now, the Corinthians didn't even know the meaning of this because they were trying to do everything they did for themselves. Can you imagine what that would be like? Never any agreement. All seeking the showy gifts and all trying to get the glory and all trying to lead the group and all trying to be the spiritual big shots, and it was just chaos. Just chaos. So Paul stops in the middle of all this and says, now let me talk to you about love. He says, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't make any difference how many talents you have. It is irrelevant what your gifts are. It is inconsequential how seemingly great you are. Your popularity is absolutely unimportant. It doesn't matter how much power you have over other people. If you are not motivated and guided by the reality of self-sacrificing, caring, serving love, you are a zero spiritually. A zero. Not even a one, a zero. You don't matter. You make no contribution. If love is not the major contribution of your life, you make no contribution. Now, what does he say specifically? In this chapter, he says 4 things about love. He says the prominence of love, the properties of love, the permanence of love, and the preeminence of love must be remembered. These 4 areas you must understand. Love has to be prominent. You have to understand its properties. Love is permanent. It overrules everything. And love is preeminent above all things. You've got to understand that. So that's the division of the chapter. Now we're looking at point 1, the prominence of love in the first 3 verses. Let me read them to you again. If, substituting for though, if I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I am become as sounding bronze or a tinkling cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing. And if I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned and have not love, it profits me nothing. Now there it is. Love is prominent. Without it, zero. 0, 0. Just noise. Now last time we looked at verse 1 and we saw the first point, languages without love are nothing. We saw that it doesn't matter if you have, in the situation of the Corinthians, the gift of tongues. Doesn't matter, in fact, if you could speak angel talk, remember? Doesn't matter if there isn't any love there. Eloquence is a desired thing. Being up front and speaking is a great thing. And claiming that you've got the voice of an angel, that you're talking angel talk. Doesn't matter. If there's no love, it is absolute noise. It's a pagan din. Now, you know, eloquence is a desired thing. And if we just take the point that he's making here and just push it to its ultimate limits, what he's really saying is the best speech on earth and the best speech in heaven doesn't matter if there's no love. You know, everybody wants to be eloquent, everybody who speaks. You know, and you hear people say, oh, he's so eloquent. He can speak and sway. They used to say about Jonathan Edwards that when he was done preaching, the people would be lying on the ground, crying out to God for mercy. Man, imagine the response to such. When we go to seminary, they try to teach us how to speak eloquently. It doesn't work on all of us. And they worry about diction and all that. You know, I remember the first assignment I had was I had to sell a class some toilet paper. You could pick anything. I don't know why that was assigned to me, but anyway, I had to sell that to the class just to get you to go, you know, and they're allowed to scream and yell and throw things at you and shout and boo and trying to get people to get out of themselves. Some guys who go to seminary to become preachers, they just stand there and go, oh, you know, they can't overcome